Oh, it tells you. How are we going, folks? Welcome back to the Nightmare Cabin. And I've got a fantastic guest with me today. I'm really happy to be joined by Mr. John Bush. How are
What's
you, John?
up? How you doing? I like your cabin.
Yeah, he's when you come over to England, you're gonna come and have a drink with me here. We've already
Oh
established
wow,
that.
really? Well, I'm coming to England in a couple months,
Exactly. Yeah, you
so
come in September, aren't you? Is it September?
August actually,
August, right.
August. We're doing
The
a 5
Dome.
shows, which is cool. We haven't played in a while, and we're excited to come to
I,
Europe as a whole. It's
I'm
been
looking
since
forward to those shows because the last two times you've come over, I've not been able to make it. And I can't remember the last time. I couldn't make it for a reason. I had something else that day. But the time before that was you was touring with Queensryche, and you
uh,
played,
Europe.
yeah, and that was
Yeah,
the
we played. Yeah, we played like 3 shows with Queensryche. We did a couple in Holland, and we did the one in London,
yeah,
actually.
and
And Death was on that.
I had tickets to the London show, and the Tubes, the Underground, was on strike that day. So
Oh, gee.
everything was replaced by buses. So if I went to the show, I would have been stranded or wouldn't have been able to get home. So yeah, I was
Bummer.
really angry that day. So yeah, I finally get to see Armored Saint this year. But
Cool.
we've got something really cool to talk about. We've got a new band, Category 7. And yeah, it's I remember the time when things had come to an end with Anthrax, and Anthrax were, John's they were insisting you were still in the band, and you'd kind of gone off the radar for a little bit. You popped up and did a song on the Nuclear Blast compilation to celebrate the Nuclear Blast anniversary, and then Armored
Wow. Yeah. I
Saint
forgot
put
about that.
put La Raza out,
Right.
and there was this little quiet period, and
Right.
now it seems you're busier than ever because
Yeah. It
you've
was.
got Armored Saint, got Category 7, you're touring, you've got yeah, so it seems like you're spinning a lot of plates at the moment.
Yeah. We for a long time I was content to kind of just do small things with Saint and raise my kids who were young at the and one was born in '04 and the other in '07. So I was happy to be home and doing that as well as helping my wife with her business and just kind of laying low after the years in Anthrax. And then time changes, kids get a little older, more things come your way, and more interest in maybe getting back to making music and playing some shows. And now we're here in 24, which is crazy because we were just saying how last time we talked might have been after Win Hands Down, and that was almost 10 years ago. So time does fly, but yeah, pretty busy at this point.
So you've got the album to about to drop with Category 7. How did the project come about?
Well, Phil and Mike and Jason were kind of messing around with the idea of doing something musically, I guess, over beers or something casual. And and then they started working on some material. And once they had a few things down, they entertained obviously who they'd like to sing for it. I was one of them. And Phil contacted me. We've done some things together through Metal Legions, which is like, kind of a all-star thing. And where we haven't done that many shows. Mostly it's been in conjunction with the NAMM show here out in Anaheim. We played in New York. We're playing in New York again. Did a handful of shows. I did at least with them, but most of the time it was with Phil. And so he contacted me and said, I have this thing going on. I'm interested in having you be part of it. Would you like to check it out? And I said, yeah, send it to me. I don't know until I actually hear it. And then he played it for me, and it sounded pretty awesome. I was like, wow, this is really powerful stuff. Let me see what I could do with it. And so I worked on some stuff vocally and lyrically, and one thing led to another, and we had probably about 8 or 9 songs done. And so we just kept on rolling with it. And here we are now with the record completed, actually. So it's pretty funny. It happened kind of just real naturally.
It's funny because you've got this when it was initially announced that the project was coming out. Obviously, you've got yourself, you've got Phil Demmel on guitar, you've got Adrenaline Mobs or ex Adrenaline Mobs, Mike Orlando. Um, Jason Bittner, obviously Shadows Fall and Overkill, and Jack Gibson from Exodus. So when you see that lineup initially, you're thinking, yeah, is this going to be a fresh, you know, um, horror show? And but then in that press release, it said like this is going to be a bit more classic rock. It's going to in the Thin Lizzy, and we're listening to old records. But the two songs that have come out so far have been pretty darn heavy, if you ask me. So
Yeah.
yeah, not that I'm, you know, I thought, wait, first I'm expecting this is going to be heavy as hell, and I was like, oh no, it's going to be classic, a bit more rock, a bit more Thin Lizzy, which is great. But then the songs come out, and I'm like, I was pretty blown away by how energetic and up in your face they were. So I'm a little, I'm not sure what to expect, and in a good way, that is.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. And the Thin Lizzy thing, could it be just mainly about how they're really playing off each other guitar wise? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of double leads. So maybe that's kind of rooted in Thin Lizzy. It doesn't sound like Thin Lizzy, of course. Thin Lizzy is one of my favorite rock bands of all time, but I don't think they didn't get quite as heavy as this. Um, and it's, you got Jason on drums, who's just all over the place. Brian Downey was awesome drummer. But again, this is just a much more modern heavy metal version of uh, anything Thin Lizzy would ever come up with. But yeah, the songs are, I think they're pretty scathing stuff, very energetic, riff mania. But there's also a lot of opportunity for really a lot of hooks and a lot of just great songwriting behind it, which is really important, I think. So, yeah, I'm curious to see what the public thinks. We've had the two videos released, and there's a great vibe on it. And, we'll see what happens. I don't, I try to keep my expectations really low when it comes to anything that is released, because I could tell you till I'm blue in the face about it, how amazing it is, but really it just comes down to what the public thinks. So.
Well, I'm curious to see what you think. How amazing it is, because well, I suppose, how would you say this differentiates from Armored Saint or what you did in Anthrax, for example?
Well, it's metal, so I mean, that's obviously the parallel with both bands. It's probably heavier than what Saint normally does. Saint's a little bit more of a heavy metal, bluesy, hard rock band. Um, Anthrax obviously is what they are, and this is maybe a little closer when it comes to a lot of the fast, erratic drumming
Mhm.
that you might hear more in common with Anthrax. Um, it's different musicians. So as much as it's under the metal umbrella, I want to believe that, because they're different people, it sounds like a different band. Obviously, the common denominator that you got going on here is this. It's my voice. So it's I joke that I could be singing, folk songs, and somebody would say it sounds like Armored Saint. It's like, yeah, because it's me, it's my
Yeah,
voice.
exactly
So,
that. Yeah,
uh,
no,
that's, where there's this common thread is running. But I, I think that, the musicianship is very different, and hopefully people, they hear that and they go, yeah, and they dig it.
yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. So, is there, obviously you're going to be busy with Armored Saint this year? Obviously, Phil's doing his thing with Kerry King. Is there chances of some shows, or is there some touring that's set apart later on further down the road?
I mean, I think we're open to some stuff. We haven't heard anything quite yet. It's still a little early on, so it's hard to say, hey, this is what we're doing. As I've said to people, that everybody in this band has kind of had a certain level of touring and shows that they've done. I mean, a lot of those guys have done things bigger than me, at least in conjunction with Saint. Maybe in Anthrax, I did some, obviously big shows, but yeah, I think that we want to do what's right, and we want to do what's looking like it's going to be fun, and we don't have a problem getting out there and slugging it out to some degree, but I don't think anybody's like looking to van it, for 25 dates across, America, and roughing it. I think it would be more about a strategic tour or shows that would hopefully be and embellish the whole vibe of the band, because right now there's such a cool thing. So
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe like a package tour or
yeah, I
best
mean,
of
I'm
all
not trying to be
circles.
snobby about it. I'm not saying this is below me. I just know what myself and probably the other guys are willing to do, and which is okay, because I think we've got to a point where we've earned that to some degree.
I mean, again, you look at the lineup of this band. I mean, you look at it, you go, right, if they're just playing covers, this is going to be a good band regardless of the circumstances. So I think even off the bat with these first two songs, there's a potential for a second and third album, and it can be something that maybe gradually builds over time. Think like
Yeah,
Phil
you
Anselmo's
know,
Down project, for example, or something like that.
which was great. Yeah, which was killer. I that's certainly a possibility. That's a good thing to connect the two, not musically per se, but yeah. Um, Yeah, I think that what I've said to other people is that, yeah, you say these five guys on paper, it should be, this, but it really still comes down to the music. The music has to be great. It can't just be five guys going, yeah, we're going to do something and, you know, just do a bunch of riffs and people are they'll love it because of who we are. You just have to prove the results of the record, and that I think stands quite tall on its own.
Okay, so you've recently signed a new deal with Armored Saint as well.
We did.
Have you?
We started with Metal Blade because that's home, and that's where Category 7 is too. I can't imagine really doing anything other than Metal Blade in my career at this point, along with Brian and Tracy. That's where I'd rather be than anywhere else, and they've always been supportive of everything I've done, and Saint, and it's great. So to me, it's just that's the only place to be is Armored Saint, and be with Metal Blade. So
Yeah, I think the great thing with Metal Blade, which again is so rare today, is that you're part of something that was built from the ground up, and Brian is genuinely a fan, and he hires
yeah,
fans as well. There is obviously, I know it's a business and you can't exist without a profit, but it is a metal band, a metal label run by metalers for metalers that are passionate about what they're doing, and yeah, it's just a sadly a rare, more and more rare thing to have nowadays.
yeah. I mean, Metal Blade has been there for Armored Saint even when we weren't even on Metal Blade. When we left to go to Chrysalis,
Yes,
between
yeah,
like 84 to like 88. Brian was always still there, supporting us and promoting Armored Saint in interviews, and we weren't even part of the label at that point. So to go back was a no-brainer, and then he put out Symbol of Salvation, which is arguably our most famous record, if perhaps, and the one that a lot of people really connect to. And I was happy that that came out on Metal Blade. And then then I quit and I was in Anthrax, and he was still supportive of my career, even at that point. So, to me, it's home. It's where it's my home. Metal Blade is, and I'm excited to always be part of it. And obviously they put out the last couple of records with When Hands Down and Raza, and obviously Punch in the Sky, the most recent one, and it feels like home.
yeah, great, great. Another reason I'm really happy to be speaking to you today, I've obviously doing YouTube, we do music reviews and whatnot, and what us metalers love is a good list, and I'm bit by bit trying to narrow it down my top 10 favorite metal albums. I'm sort of got the list and I add to it, and then I cross one
Wow.
out and then I add to it. And just purely by coincidence, you've ended up in the list of what I've compiled so far twice. So I was wondering if we could have a quick talk about two albums. I mean, I'd have you here all night talking about all of the Armored Saint back catalogue and the Anthrax albums, but we've only got a limited time. But yeah, two of the albums that have on the list is We Come For You All and Symbol of Salvation. And
Thank you very much. Happy to be part of your top 10.
yeah, and I mean, we've touched on Symbol of Salvation already, so I guess we'll talk about that a bit. But there's just something that the backstory of the album, I mean, it's a fantastic collection of fantastic songs. The way it's sequenced and just put together, it is just a perfect metal album. But it's a true tribute to your friend and a testament to Armored Saint's friendship. And I do think that is why that's part of the appeal of Armored Saint. The reason people love the band is because you can tell you are just a band of brothers. And when you look at the story of Armored Saint, you do, over the years, you know, maybe the band have been put on hold and people have gone into different projects, but you've always found each other again. And it is a real story of perseverance and friendship.
Yeah, I mean that record almost didn't happen. Obviously, all the songs were written, with Dave, who passed away in 1990. Um, and going through his illness, he had leukemia, and over a couple of years, we were not sure about the future of the band, and we were not sure about the future of him. So a lot of, and then we got dropped by the label we were with, Chrysalis. So we were in a very large state of limbo. But the one thing we could control was the music we were making. The business was all in flux, and his health as well. But we were just like, let's just write songs, and that's all we can do, and hope for the best. It was kind of hard to go and go, let's go get a new record deal when our guitar player has got leukemia. But again, we were so young. It was funny because like I look back on that time and I was, during that course of time, I was probably like 25. We all were about 25 years old. So we were all still really young and had so much experience already under our belt still, but we're still young. So, once Dave died, then it was another kind of crushing reality. And then that's when Slagle said, look, you got to put these songs out and you have them, I'll do it. We kind of pieced the band back together, and because we were, it was me, Joey, and Gonzo. So unless we were going to do some bass drum vocal thing, we needed guitar players, and the logical choice was getting the two guys who played with Dave at different times, to Jeff Duncan and Phil Sandoval, of course, Gonzo's brother. So we kind of reconvened and wanted to see what the status of the vibe of the band was, and it was great. Everyone was just happy to be part of it again. And so we said, let's make the record. And then we did. And we worked with Dave Jordan. And he was an awesome producer, red hot at the time, doing Alice in Chains and Jane's Addiction, among others. And it was just a killer environment going into El Dorado Studios, which is ironic because it's directly across the street from where my wife's new business is. So I see it every day and I'm like, wow, that's so weird. And then I ended up making Sound of White Noise there, hence back to back with Symbol, which is so weird.
Another
So
fantastic album, yeah.
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 So in any connection, I mean, a sense, it was just it was a great time to kind of rebirth and put that record out. And Joey was a big part of producing it as well as Dave. And the results at the time, it was 91, so the beginning of grunge and metal changing and a lot going on, of course, and then Anthrax came calling, and I had to leave. But in retrospect, it's a killer record that just is our cornerstone album. And when we went out recently, a couple of years ago now, and did the tour in its entirety, and it was just it really showed how great that. Yeah, it was just true to even us how great the record was, and real diverse. You got metal songs like Rain of Fire and Dropping Like Flies, but then you got a little more moody, Last Train, Another Day,
Yeah,
bluesy, Truth Always Hurts, old school metal like Hanging Judge.
another day, beautiful song.
Another Day is one of my
Yeah.
favorite songs. Tainted Past, which is like an epic, and it's just real diverse. So it's a great album.
It's fun. I mean, if you've not heard this album, you owe it to yourselves, guys, to go check this out. But
Go get it.
definitely treat yourself to this edition as well, because you get the album on disc 1, and then disc 2, you get the demos of the album. So David is playing on those.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
And then disc 3, you get a interview with Brian Slagle in the band, and he talks about how he steps in at this point, goes like, "You've got to make this album," and you almost didn't put Tribal Dance on it.
We did.
Yeah. Do you not remember that? Or
I don't actually.
Oh
What
right, oh,
do you
see,
know?
you have to listen to the interview, so you need to get this.
Oh,
So.
really?
Yeah,
Wow,
there was
that's
he was they were apprehensive about Trouble Dance. I think it happens with bands all the time. I think Ronnie James Dio famously didn't want to use Rainbow in the Dark, and
funny. I
he
wonder
said
why. Did we?
you were probably just sick of the sound of it at that point. If you bands, yeah, but Brian said like, no, this goes on the album.
Oh, that's funny because
Yeah.
that's like one of our popular songs of the record. We just toured and we played that song live.
Maybe it
It's
was the other
killer.
guys.
Always great live.
You'll have to talk to the
Yeah, it's the other
them.
guy.
Yeah, you go.
I mean, it's such a classic riff that
Yeah.
it sounds so Dave too, which is funny. Anyway, maybe you're confusing it with the Two Unlimited version of the song Tribal because they have one too.
Yeah.
For all that trivia,
Maybe,
all the trivia buffs.
that was maybe yeah maybe he was covering it for a later album. I think he decided not to use it. That was something. But but yeah, and then another amazing album. We Came for You All, and I mean I like your whole run with Anthrax, but there was definitely something special about this album. It was I think metal was kind of going for a bit of a renaissance at the time. Anyway, obviously you had a couple of years previous. You had. With Bruce Dickinson rejoining Iron Maiden, and that kind of kicked things in, and everyone was. I think a lot of bands were finding themselves getting a new, younger generation of fans. I don't know. There was just a real buzz around this album at the time. I remember, and I mean, this was just the soundtrack to my summer at that time, and yeah, I love every song off it now. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
cool.
give some reflection on.
Yeah, I just I went back to record it after my wife and I got married. So there was that change in my life that was taking place. Um, Rob Caggiano came into the band
Of
around that
course,
time.
yeah.
Um, who's gone on to do lots of things, as we all know. We signed to Nuclear Blast, which before that we were kind of the the label situation with Anthrax wasn't so good while I was in the band. Obviously, we made the two with Elektra, but then we left, and then Volume 8 was with this kind of upstart label, and it never really went on. It never really happened. So then we signed with Nuclear Blast, and at least in Europe. And it was just a lot of enthusiasm behind that deal, and also knowing what they could do for the band in Europe. And so that was a big buzz on it. And the record's great. It has a lot of diversity on it. You got these like scathing rockers like What Doesn't Die and Black Dahlia and Nobody Knows Anything. And then you have Safe Home, which became one of the more sing along popular songs live, at least while I was in the group. And you know, it's kind of like I said, it's a diverse record. It just has this kind of cool feeling through it. The production was great. The songs live were always fun to play. Refused to Be Denied was another really cool tune. So, you know, it was fun
Superhero,
to
yeah, yeah.
Cadillac Rockbox was killer with Dimebag's intro, and he played on that song as well. So again, versatile album, probably a little underrated, and probably in the States a little underrated. I don't know about in Europe, but because we did tour to some degree a fair amount, and like I said, there was a lot of awareness of the record in Europe. But it's cool that that made your top 10 because always people go with Sound of White Noise, and it's cool that it was not that one.
My buddy Gav as well. I know he'll be watching, so shout out to him. This is always his favorite workout album as well. Whenever he's in the gym, that's his go-to. So
Yeah, well, you could definitely get pumped up into some of those songs in the gym.
well, the thing is as well, if you're going to do a long workout where you're doing a bit of cardio here, a bit of weightlifting there, and you're chopping and changing, it's the perfect album because it's about an hour long, especially with if you get the
Right.
bonus tracks edition, so you can go through all the and
I might have to try to put it on one day and see how it flies with working out.
oh yeah, you'll run through the wall. And Roger Daltrey's on the album as well. How did that come about?
Daltrey, that's right. That was amazing. You know,
Sorry.
I mean, he's a legend. It's Roger
Yeah.
Daltrey, and that was really cool. I wasn't in the room with Roger, which is a bit of a bummer in retrospect, but it's still amazing that his voice is on there. And yeah, I mean, he's a legend. So it was very cool to do
Did you
that.
meet him at all, or?
I didn't, because what was
Oh,
funny is I feel like, where was I? I guess I was in New York because that's where I was staying when we were recording the record. Um, but Daltrey, I think at the time was in LA. So we were in different places. But he did his part in the studio in LA, and did my part in studio in New York. And it was a drag to never really officially meet him. But hopefully one day I will and say, hey, we're on a record together. And
yeah.
that's
You
fine with
you and me
Daltrey.
have actually duetted, yeah.
Yeah,
So
he's I mean he's such a killer singer and such a rad presence, and he's still, I think he's just doing a tour recently. I just saw him
doing a
on
solo tour in America, yeah.
Bill Maher, who has a talk show here in the United States,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
and he was on there one night, and when I watched it, it was really cool to see his interview with him, and
Yeah,
get.
I met him once. It was crazy. We was at a it's like this little mini railway that you go along the coast, and it pulls up on a couple of different stops, and there's this little cafe. And what I didn't know was that the last stop is a what was to be a brand new restaurant or a refurbished restaurant, and Roger was going to be opening it. I didn't know any of this was going on, and I just went into this cafe, and it's Roger Daltrey. And I went,
That's random.
yeah, and she's like, no, it's not. Of course, how can it be? I'm telling you. But he was sitting with his family, and I called my dad, and I went, you will never believe this. 2 tables away from me is Roger Daltrey, and my dad went,
Was it his restaurant? Was it him opening it, or?
yeah, he was doing like the ribbon cutting thing, you know.
Oh, okay,
And
gotcha. What kind of food?
I don't know. I didn't go to the restaurant, but it was
Oh,
an opening thing later on. But we were just going on the railway thing and just pulled into this cafe to just have a break, you know. And my dad went like, if you don't go up and say hi to him, I'm just going to disown you, basically. So he'd gone outside, and at that point, people had start talking to him, and it was like, yeah, I've got to. So I just went out and said hello, and he was chatting. He was chatting away for ages. He was happy, you know, taking photos, and I had seen him previously that year as well, and I said I saw you at Wembley, and like, oh yeah, did you enjoy
yeah.
it? Yeah, it was good that one, you know. So
That's
um,
cool. He seems like a real kind of straight
yeah,
up guy.
he's really down to earth. Really, there's no bullshit with him, you know. So yeah, when you hopefully you do finally get to meet him, and you can say like, yeah, I've been on a record with you, and
Yes,
you know.
we have it in common, so it could be a starting talking point for sure.
So we mentioned Dimebag as well, and I think a lot of people forget that Dimebag did guitar on 2 Anthrax records, didn't he? He did
He actually
3.
did three because he played on Stomp, played a couple leads on
Yeah.
Stomp. Actually played um, on Volume 8. He did the lead on the Inside Out, which is a killer song on that record. Great video for it, and then he did that one, Cadillac Rock Box. So I think he did the lead on that, or did he play the lead on that? I'm assuming he did. I can't
I
remember.
thought he did. You can correct me. You were there,
Maybe
so you'd know. But
you know what? Maybe he didn't play that. We just took his intro where, because he calls Charlie and he's talking about the music for the record. So that leads me to believe Charlie sent him some music and was like, "Hey, you're gonna play a couple leads again." And then he responds with the message that he left. And then we were like, "That's such a great thing. We got to, not only are we going to call this song that, but we should have him play on it." So I assume I don't remember now if he's on that song, but I believe he is. I don't know. I
do
have to look
you
at the credit.
have you are you going to go see, or have you seen, or will you see the new Pantera shows?
I saw them opening for Metallica at the SoFi Stadium here in Los
Oh,
Angeles.
so it was recently then, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was
How was
cool.
it?
It was great to hear those songs live, and obviously I'm real happy for Charlie because he was playing a
Oh, of
stadium.
course, yeah.
So it was really cool, and he could play those songs, pretty awesomely because well, for one, he's an incredible drummer, and number two is, he was friends with Vinny, so he's very meticulous in the way he probably learns things, and I'm sure he learned it exactly as such. So it was cool. I mean, obviously, you know, you're gonna miss those guys, no doubt about it. You know, the brothers were an integral part of Pantera. I mean, it's an understatement, but you know, there's a lot of fans were stoked to hear those songs live, and a lot of people never got to see Pantera, so I'm sure there's a lot of excitement from the fans out there.
I've just looked it up. Yeah, Dimebag played on 2 songs on We Came From York. He
Okay,
did.
so he
He
played on
did
3
Strap It
albums.
On and Cadillac Rock
Strap it
Box.
on. Okay. Yeah, so you know, he was kind of like the lead guitarist those records because he played a couple of leads on all of them. Not Sound of White Noise because that was Danny Spitz, but and then Paul Crook played actually a lot of leads on both Volume 8 and Stomp because he was the touring guitar player for Anthrax at that time. And then Caggiano came in on We've Come For You All, and he did the bulk of those leads. So
Yeah, I mean he's a fantastic guitarist and a great producer as well. Do you
yeah,
you
well, he
still
co-produced that with Eddie Wall. That was his partner at the
Mm.
time. I don't know if they're still doing records together, but at that time they were making records together. So Rod actually co-produced that album too, I believe. Yeah.
Last time we spoke, I asked the question and it kind of gained a bit of traction, and then a couple of other podcasts did it as well. I think there was one or two before actually asked the question before us. But yeah, the idea of you doing a tour playing Anthrax era, your Anthrax era songs,
Yeah.
and yeah, is that still on the cards? Is that still an option at some point? Would you put together?
I mean, I would like to do that. I really would actually. I think it would be really cool to do you know, a handful of shows, if not a few more or a few less, playing a lot of those songs because you know, I think there's some great tunes on those records. So it would be really fun to go out and do it. I don't think it would be something to go out and do, you know, again, another 60 dates or so, but it would be actually much more fun to do it in kind of a special manner and get people enthusiastic about it and and I mean we could literally play a headlining set if you combine all those records. Um, Certainly a really cool opening set of those songs.
Oh, you're
And
not
I
opening.
do,
You're headlining. Yeah, those
yeah,
4
well,
albums alone. That's
yeah.
a fantastic era of the. I think. Do you know what? I think when Black Sabbath got back with Ronnie Dio and then went, right, we're going to separate this and call it Heaven and Hell and just do
Right,
those 3 albums. I think that did a lot of people a big favor. But then Tim Owens did his Judas Priest thing when he decided just to,
right.
and now you've just had this
Actually,
box set.
yeah, KK's Priest is actually playing some of those songs
Yeah,
with
that's been a continuation of that. And then obviously you've just had this Black Sabbath box set come up with the Tony Martin albums.
oh
And I
wow. Yeah.
and I think people, they get into, there's different eras of bands, and obviously like your mainstream media always goes with the classic records, but people go, no, I like these different eras of different bands and whatnot, and I think if you were to do that, I think it'd be bigger than you're anticipating it to be. I think,
It would be fun because I love a lot of those songs. I've done Only and Room for One More with Metal Allegiance, which is the thing I do with Phil and Mark Mengy and Mike
I forgot
Portnoy.
about Metal Legions. Yeah, I can't believe I
So
did. Yeah.
we played it live. We even played it at Rock in Rio, and it was awesome, because
Mm.
Anthrax. I toured a couple times in South America with Anthrax, and people certainly know those songs, and they went over very well. So I would love to do it. Now with Category 7, it's like, where do I fit this in my life?
Exactly.
But
Yeah,
I have a
we'll
couple
come.
ideas, and it would, like I said, to me, it'd be cooler maybe to do a handful of shows and do maybe some festivals, and that would make it cooler instead of
That'd
going
be
out and
definitely set the ball rolling. Yeah, yeah, and then you can sort of get a reading of what the.
right, exactly.
So with Category 7, would you just do Category 7 because you've got pretty much a fantasy football team, a fantasy metal team. You could probably do a little bit of a song here and a song there, or maybe some covers, or would you just stick to the album while you've just got the
Yeah,
one?
We haven't discussed that actually, but yes, there's a couple different options on the table. I don't know, actually. We really haven't had that conversation. I mean, I guess it would depend on how long the set is that we're playing, and that would determine a lot. But there's some opportunities for a couple different things. We'll see.
Um, right. So we've got obviously the Category 7 album coming out in the next couple of weeks. I'll be reviewing it on the show when it comes out. So what you're touring with Armored Saint this summer?
We're doing like a month. We're late July to
Yeah.
late August.
And then obviously is there a new album in the works, or
We're writing songs for a new Saint
so we're in
record.
the writing process?
Yeah, we're shooting for next year to get something out, but we have like a handful of songs that sound really cool, kind of different, So, yeah, we're trying to follow the momentum that we built with When Hands Down and Punch in the Sky, and Armored Saint's vibe is really great right now. So, sky's the limit.
Yeah, no, it's great. And like I say, I think you did a documentary recently as well, was that right?
We did. That
Yeah.
hasn't been released yet. It was from a buddy of ours who's actually a fellow Brit, Russell Charrington. He put a lot of work into it, got some great interviews. He's just trying to finalize some distribution, and hopefully that happens soon because it's somewhat time sensitive because you want it to feel current, and but there was great interviews in there with a lot of people that have come and gone through our career, business, friends, and it's great. I think it'll be amusing for people to watch it.
Okay, man. Well, yeah, you're going to be busy. The future's looking bright, and as I said before, I think the reason people love Armored Saint so much is because when people see the interviews and see the story of the band, you are a band of brothers, and I know people are going to be happy to see this interview and see you because people love you because you're a down to earth, great guy, and you're a fantastic singer, and
Thank you, man. Nice of
and
you.
you've got a great catalogue of music behind you with Anthrax, Armored Saint, now Category 7, Metal Allegiance, and all the collaborations you've done. So yeah, it's been a real pleasure speaking to you, John. And yeah, I
Thank you
look
very
forward
much.
to seeing.
Appreciate that.
And yeah,
Thanks
hopefully
for all
I'll
the feedback.
bump into you in August. So
Yes, please to come to one of the shows and let's have a chat. And yeah, thanks for all the support and for all the fans out there. Thank you very much. And get into the music.
I'm a massive Thin Lizzy fan. So I'm gonna
Ah,
quick question before we go. What's your favorite Thin Lizzy album?
Fin- uh, you
I'll
know,
save the hard one for last.
well, it's hard to argue with Jailbreak, but since that's always the one that people probably connect with, how about let's go Johnny the Fox?
Good choice. Yeah. All
Ah,
right. I'm liking
of
that.
course.
All right. Brilliant. All right.
All right, brother.
John Bush, ladies and gentlemen. Check out Armored Saint in the summer in the tour. Check out Category 7 when it comes out. I know it's going to be great. And yeah, John, it's been a fantastic speaking to you. And
All
yeah,
right,
thanks
brother.
very
Thank
much
you
for your
very
time.
much. Your
All the
cabin looks
best.
cool. I dig it.
This is when you come over, you're more than welcome. And
Right
yeah,
on.
whatever record you want to play. So
Okay.
yeah. All the best, man. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all soon.